Hi, welcome back. This is our second podcast this year. Myself, Phil, is the president, Megan as our CEO, and we're looking for a lot of great stuff today in the podcast. We're talking about where things are with the NAR settlement, the market trends, and we're trending upward, which is a great thing. And a new NAR profile of home buyers and sellers, kind of continued from last time. We talked about the FSBO side of things, and we've got some more good stuff to report on that. And then December community happenings and January upcoming events. So let's get started with all of this. Megan, do you want to kick us off?
I absolutely do. So first thing we've got today to talk about is kind of the big news in the industry, which is on November 26th, it was announced that the NAR proposed settlement had been approved. So this is kind of that big news story that we have been working on all year long.
Yes, we have been following it very closely. I know that coming up to this event, there's a little bit of hesitation. We didn't know if the DOJ was going to try to change anything. Did you hear anything? Did they try to jump in at the last minute and try to kind of add a few more things to the settlement?
They sure did. So during the final hearing, they were able to hear from all parties, and that included the Department of Justice did in the kind of final 48 hours issue a statement that they were interested in this case. That being said, though, they were able to hear from the Department of Justice. They were able to hear from both sides, and they still came to a pretty quick resolution. And the terms of the settlement, as proposed back in March, were accepted as is.
That's perfect. So what overall, we've been talking about it all year, but now that it's official, what can we put on records as what has changed?
Yeah, so overall, we're hoping that the result of this settlement is just increased transparency and consumer trust across the industry. What you're going to be seeing is on the realtor side, some slight practice changes. So this is what we've been working on all year round. It was removing compensation fields and compensation information from our MLS. Mm-hmm. And it was also implementing the mandatory use of those written buyer agreements.
And that's really in place to help buyers and sellers kind of negotiate compensation more freely, correct?
Yes, it kind of introduces that conversation in a more formal process of setting up right off the bat who your realtor is, how they are working for you, what services they're going to perform, how do they get paid. So the process itself is similar, but the mandatory use of this form is kind of introducing a more formal way to have that conversation.
Yeah, and overall, this is going to really, it's going to promote a better practice for, buyer agents, seller agents. It's going to make these things far more like any transaction, more cleaner, more fair for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And as a reminder to members of the National Association that this settlement kind of frees you guys from liability.
Yeah.
So releases agents, brokerages, MLSs, and associations from further.
So bringing that into the agent side of the NAR settlement, can you talk more about what this other additional things that it means for realtors?
Yeah. So as a member of the National Association, NAR does have to pay a settlement. The first chunk of that is going to be paid in the beginning of 2025. The good news is, though, that the folks at NAR are being very mindful, seeing what they can do. There's not going to be any increases to your dues in 2025.
No, I heard Kevin Spears talk at the national convention. He was very clear that they've been looking at this, they've been planning for this now, and NAR is going to be very lean. They're going to they're making some changes so they don't have to have that get passed on to their members. And so I was really impressed with that, and I liked what he the overall spirit of it, that they worked really hard. And they felt that they got to a great resolution, a fair resolution that's going to help the whole industry. But in the meantime, they don't want to have any negative impacts upon what it costs us to practice real estate. So,
and we were trying to kind of mirror that on the local side as well. So we're taking stock. We want to make sure that everything we're providing you guys works best for you. We're taking note of what you want, what you don't want. But at the end of the day, I think that this resolution just helps our industry move forward.
Very true. And I think the big point that we have to put across, especially for our membership here, is that this release status only stays in place as long as we're following these guidelines. So, when people, I just want to make it very clear to our members, can we do this, don't work, there's nothing to work around here. Let's follow the guidelines. Let's follow the rules that are in place. I know some people that I've talked to are like, well, this seems kind of ridiculous or whatever, but it's here. And I think it's a better situation for all our members and for the public. So let's follow it and let's stay in the settlement. So exactly.
Yeah. And there's tons of resources available by now. I know we've been kind of lamenting on them, but if you have not already, iCar on our own website, we've got a landing page with all these links and additional info. NAR, their Facts.Realtor website, they're still continually updating with information. And even here on conversations like this. So if you check out our social media, we've been putting out plenty of videos, information. You can always reach out for more, but
yeah, I think it's great. I think we've done a really good job. NAR's done a really good job. I found that this is actually a talking point with clients because even if they're not aware of it, it's great to bring it to light and explain how we're better serving the public. And to that point, why do you think the public should care about this?
Oh, goodness. I mean, buying and selling real estate is often the largest transactions an individual makes in their life. And I think that everyone should have the confidence and the transparency in those decisions. And so, again, if this is just introducing an easier way for an agent to have a conversation saying, as your buyer's agent, this is how I get paid. This is what I will provide to you. This is what I will not provide to you. Just so that everyone's really on the same page of what to expect out of this experience. Yeah,
it makes it very transparent, very clear. I think that it helps buyers and sellers feel more empowered to negotiate.
Absolutely.
It's always been that way, but I think we need to be giving them the vehicles to know that this is an open and transparent transaction, so they can ask and we can negotiate. So I think it's a good situation, and it's here to stay. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I think a lot of times people are very they gravitate toward the negative about like why NAR settled so quickly, even though they said they weren't going to settle. And it came across kind of overnight, but NAR had to take a very hard look at what the landscape was going to be. And if the settlement didn't come to pass, it could have been a lot more expensive and been much more costly down the road. So I think it was a great outcome for everybody involved.
Yeah, very happy to be tying this up at the end of 2024.
We're done with this.
Ready for 25.
So let's get ready for business next year. We know how to do it. Let's practice the right way.
Yep. Moving on. Path forward.
So moving on, we're looking at the market. We're looking at some trends here. And, I definitely saw a little bit of a flat line in the middle of the year. But now I have to say this has been a pretty impressive fall. Seeing our numbers increase, and sometimes we do have an uptick in the fall. This is kind of for our area, sometimes you see that, but I was really impressed, and I can tell, around in my brokerage and just personal business that it's December's been pretty busy. So I feel like hopefully that's a sign of rates stabilizing, dipping a little bit, and having some buyers come out. Also, we did have a little bit of an uptick in inventory, and so people are now coming back out to see if they can capture that before the end of the year. So I feel pretty impressive. What do you think has been some of this, has been promoting some of these home sales and home growth?
Yeah, it's been nice to see that what we're seeing here locally, that uptick in October and November and kind of sustaining through this later fall, we're seeing that mirrored on the national level as well. So we're seeing the third straight, these numbers that we're quoting are national numbers from NAR.
Sure.
And they saw the third consecutive month of gains when it comes to home sale growth. So month over month, we are starting to see that uptick. And then additionally, existing home sales were up 3% annually, and that's their first yearly gain in over 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I see some of that here locally as well. I know these are national numbers. We're looking at like contract signings. I think it's pretty impressive. I'm looking here and seeing this data, and like the pending home sales index, it's up 5.4% from last year. Yeah. October increase of 2% from December. And again, usually the later you go in the year, the less sales you see. We're seeing the opposite trend there, which is great. And then, we've got a bunch of different indicators that the inventory shortage is easing.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign. Hopefully we'll see that continue into the spring, because the last thing we want to see is, that inventory start shrinking down again and going back into a kind of the Wild West of these contract negotiations where people are fighting over just a minimal amount of inventory. So people always ask about like, if, buyer market, seller market. Well, a balanced market is a healthy market, and we don't want to see that move one way or another. So to one side or another, rather.
And I think people often assume that just because a rate's changing or the market's changing quite a bit, that it might turn into suddenly a buyer's market. But we've had low inventory, lack of inventory has been the name of the game for a while.
Yeah. Again, going back to mortgage rates, I think that is a big indicator. when we see the decreases in the rates, getting buyers out there to buy. I mean, overall, we're looking nationally, 30-year fixed rate averaging at 6.84%. Now around here, we've got some really strong local lenders, which is always impressive. They're great partners to keep those rates even lower. So I expect to see that, locally, averaging closer to like 6.25, which would be great. Another thing is, NAR's Lawrence Yoon, great guy, predicts that the rate may become the new normal. And I think I indicated this in the last podcast. When we shifted from that 3.5%, up to 5, then 6, and then even like low 7s, it was a pretty drastic shift. And a lot of times when people are operating in this world of 3.5, and just 2 weeks later, they're seeing almost a 2% jump, they don't know where it's going to go at that point. They don't know, will it return? But once it gets far enough in the rearview mirror and the new numbers and the old numbers are gone, the new numbers are here, it becomes the new normal and it helps the market come back.
And if anything, going from that 7% down to a 6, well, gosh, now that feels so.
That's great.
That is fine.
It is.
So I do think that the pent up demand of those that have maybe been holding off because of the rates are going to come into play. And they're also predicting there's been job growth and people have been kind of pent up in their houses for a while. So between the rates kind of decreasing a little bit, inventory increasing a little bit, I think the expectation is that the market is going to just free up a little bit and be moving a little bit steadier next year. Yeah.
And I think, to our part locally, I think iCar is going to do a really good job this year, looking at this new trend, getting materials out there for people because, we want our members happy. We want people engaged and doing well in the market.
That's exactly right.
I think, one thing I do want to come back to, I think we talked briefly last time about, NAR's profiling of different buyers and sellers. Yeah. I think we got some more updated stats.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah. And just as a reminder, these are highlight stats. If you get the full profile, it's 200 pages, but there's so much good information in there. So I know we touched on it some last time, but there's even more.
Well, it's 200 pages of information. We're going to have to break that down over a few episodes.
Yeah, bear with us.
We're trying to make this interesting.
So this time we're going to focus a little bit more on stats from the selling side. Mm-hmm. So just looking at last year, 2023, overall 90% of home sellers sold with a realtor, and that is a record high.
And I really want to pause on that because I think, with the market where people are out there trying to advertise for the for sale by home, for sale by owner and all the savings you can get, I think the public understands, this stat shows us the public understands that if you use a licensed realtor, you're going to get a better value for your house. And so we can argue it all day long, but the public is backing us up on this. So I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah. And you say value, let's go straight to the dollar points. For sale by owner houses typically sold for less than the selling price of homes that were represented with an agent. Agent-assisted homes sold for a median of $435,000 compared to the FSBO home median of $380,000. So $55,000 higher as a median price if you worked with an agent.
Yeah, the results are pretty clear, and I think too, when people do have to realize that when they're working with a licensed agent, we bring more to the table than a very focused, marketing tool that any type of for sale by homeowner might have access to. Mm-hmm. For example, we've noticed that in that realm of for sale by homeowners, they're still hiring an appraiser. Mm-hmm. They're still hiring a home inspector, even prior to going on the market. And so they're already bringing other, I would say, experts into it. But when you work with an agent, you're getting all of that, at one person
Typically,
or a team. And I think that just shows that people, again, back to this 90% number, they understand that.
Mm-hmm. And so if we look at that small number of those who are selling for sale by owner, the kind of the whys behind it, 38% said, well, I'm just selling to someone I already know. So again, you're really chunking down that price if they say I'm just selling to a relative or a neighbor.
Well, and to that point, I think people are friends and friendly and, and good family members until they're not. And unfortunately, when money gets involved, if you don't have a professional there to help negotiate that path, even between friends and family, things can go sideways. And when they do, that's not a good situation to be in. Yeah.
And that is what they kind of report having the most respect of using an agent for is negotiating through that paperwork. Once, let's say you've accepted that offer. Well, now you've got a lot of documents to work through. And that's something that the homeowners say that their agent was a huge help with.
That's good. No, when you price the house, because I noticed this stat too, that 15% of FSBO priced their homes and how much they wanted to make, not what their house was worth.
Yeah.
And that can be drastically different. If the value is in your house and the market can carry that value, that's what you're going for. You're not just going for a bottom line profit. You're going for as much money as you can based on the value of your home.
And what would happen as a realtor if you decided to list a house dramatically higher or lower than what its market value is? Let's say you're listing it just because that's the dollar amount you want to pocket.
Yeah.
It's not going to...
The math doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So you need a professional to work through that.
Yes. So this is your opportunity to work with a professional realtor.
No, those are some really good stats. And again, focusing on the selling side of things is great. Hopefully, this is all information that people can use to report back to their sellers or prospective sellers to go, thank you for reaching out. 90% of you did. And these are the other reasons that it's great to be working with us.
Yeah.
So one last thing I do want to touch on here is, how great, the holidays were. Yeah. All the events that went through and the amazing outcome we had, the turnout of agents, the volunteers. So would you mind kind of touching on that, and then also kind of like coming up here in January, like what some great events to look forward to?
Yeah. So even if the market gets a little bit slower in the winter time, we like to use that as let's plug in the volunteer opportunities, the membership, community involvement opportunities. So one thing that we did first off was Realtor Ring Day this year.
Yeah.
That is the first Friday of every December. And ICAR basically reserves several locations across our service area where realtors can sign up to ring the bell.
Yeah.
So this time we had locations in Iowa City. We had them in Coralville. We had them in North Liberty. And agents, even though it was a little chilly out there, from 8 a.m., 5 p.m., were ringing the bell and able to raise some funds for the Salvation Army. Yeah,
it was great. Good turnout. You can always count on agents to get out there and volunteer. Mm-hmm. It's really impressive. Being in the industry as long as I've been, I've seen so many people in so many facets of our community, always agents volunteering. And it just, I don't know, it makes me happy to see that we're not just here to work with the community. We're also here to serve the community. And that's, it's a really good, I'm proud to be a part of that.
Yeah.
But it was a great ring day, and record numbers are here. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Kind of keeping the theme of holidays, though, that wasn't the only thing we did in December. We're also wrapping up our ICAR Brings Home the Holidays project. So every year, ICAR works to, we allow brokerages to opt in and adopt families, and then they are paired with families in need for the holiday season. This year, we were actually able to take it and grow it. So this has kind of been an in-house project we've done in years past. This year, we partnered with the United Way of Johnson and Washington counties.
Yep.
They already run a very well-oiled adopt-a-family program. So we were able to be the headlining sponsor of that program. So we were able to sponsor 200 families getting adopted.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
And then in addition to that, we had 7 of our own brokerages adopt individual families.
Yeah. No, I think we were a part of that. And it's always good. Again, it's the holiday season. I think it's important that everyone gets a chance to have a little bit of a break and enjoy good food, good family, So.
Pay it forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were able to get wish lists, buy gifts for their families, wrap it all up, and get that delivered ahead of the holidays.
So that was a great December. What do we have to look forward to in January?
We're going to keep it rolling.
Okay.
We've got our first quarterly free lunch program coming up in January.
Is that the 1105 project?
That is the 1105 project.
That's great.
We do it every single quarter. And so January is our next one. Members have a couple different ways they can get involved. Mm-hmm. So if you like to be a hands-on volunteer, great. Sign up and work with us to serve lunch that day. So you are preparing the ingredients, you're preparing food, setting it out, serving it to community members, helping clean up that good stuff. Or if you don't have much time on your hands, but you would love to still contribute, we have signups to just buy and drop off the ingredients needed. So whether that's a tortilla, because we like to do taco day, or a bag of lettuce, or a bag of clementines, or whatever it may be, it can be as simple as just saying, I will buy and drop off some sour cream that day.
There's a lot of ways to give.
Yes.
And I will say the people I've talked to that have done it, everyone's always had a blast.
Yeah.
So that everyone has a good time, especially when they're back in the kitchen making the food. So one of the best times. But again, if you don't have the time, just having that ability to drop off and donate is perfect.
Yeah.
But then So we have January. Where are we going? I think we're going as far out as early. We got some early February sneak peeks. Some early February promos.
Already available to register is the IAR Capital Conference is going to be February 5th and 6th this year. So a little bit later. It's typically in January. They're shifting it just a bit. But this is an annual IAR conference. It is 2 days. The first day is headed to the Capitol, the Hill visits. Do you want to kind of preview what that is like?
Yeah, that's a fantastic time to get up there, meet with your representatives, and really see like a peek behind the curtain how things get done. I started doing this a few years back, and it really was a highlight to get up there to the Capitol and have some good conversations with the people that represent you at the state level. And so I always encourage it. I think that if you're on the fence, just go. I mean, you're not going to regret it, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's free. It is available to all Realtor members within Iowa to attend. And like you said, it's a great opportunity, even if it doesn't feel like your wheelhouse, just to kind of get your feet wet, right? To like get involved in those conversations, get involved on the state level, get to know your legislators, get to know the advocacy issues that affect real estate and private property rights here in Iowa. Absolutely.
And having that voice, it really is impressive to see how both sides work to get these things done. And you bringing your voice to go, we really want to see these changes in the industry to help, again, protect property rights and individual home ownership.
Yeah. In years past, ICAR has provided a bus to Capitol Conference. It hasn't been too popular. So we're not going to offer the bus this year, but we are offering gas gift cards for anyone who's carpooling. So you throw 4 people in a car, ICAR will give you a $50 gift card. Throw 8 people in a van, we'll give you $100.
That's awesome. Well, I hope to see some people there. We always do have a really good turnout. I've always been impressed with our local association and the people that get involved. I can see that people have been doing this for over 20 years, the same people going, and I'm seeing new faces, and I'm really impressed with that.
Yeah.
Well, that we covered a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot to cover. I'm glad that we were able to get that out to our membership. Impressive stuff coming forward too. I'm really happy with that. But hitting the settlement, talking about the market update. So check out the NAR website. To look for that buyers and seller profile. December, great month. I'm glad all the community involvement with all the different agents, and I think that we knocked it out of the park. So really happy to see that, and all the stuff that we're going to see coming down the road here in January and February. It was great. Always great sitting down here talking with you. I want to remind everybody, subscribe. It doesn't take much. Go hit that button, and we really want to see this channel grow and see this information get out to more people. So thank you so much for listening, Megan. Thank you for being here. Anything to add to the viewers?
We will see you next time.
I like it. Yeah. Thanks.